Hey all, Mike back here with another stock strategy explained, and today we're going to be talking about the Gamestop stock. We're going to take a look at why it's been on a tear recently and if you should buy the stock. And before we begin, make sure you stop playing games and hit that like button down below. It really helps out my channel. And make sure you subscribe for more future updates on stock analysis and IPOs. And a quick disclaimer that my lawyers made me say, this is not legal, tax, financial, or investment advice. Make sure you do your own research before you do any sort of investment. And with that, let's get right into GameStop. So for those of you who've been living under a rock and haven't been paying attention to the GameStop stock, it has been on an absolute tear in the last week. In the last week alone, it's grown over 88%, which is insane for any stock, let alone GameStop. And the big reason for this increase is the recently announced news that GameStop has had a monster quarter. They've sold a lot of inventory, and we'll take a look at that. And just a quick 5-second TLDR for those of you who don't know what GameStop is. GameStop is a game retailer that sells new consoles and video games and also buys used consoles and used video games to resell. They sell both in store with their physical retail presence and they sell online with e-commerce, which is actually very important and we'll take a deep dive into. And now with that quick 5-second TLDR over, we can get into why GameStop stock has been on an absolute tear. And the main reason is they publicly announced some amazing news related to their sales. So they just announced same store sales have increased over 4.8%, which is actually a really big deal, especially during the pandemic when people aren't necessarily going into stores. And the other big thing to note is actually e-commerce. Their e-commerce sales rose over 300%, which is absolutely insane and a big testament to how the pandemic is also shifting consumer preferences and consumer shopping behaviors. GameStop, as you can tell, is really taking advantage of e-commerce and meeting customers where they want to buy. And the other thing to note is e-commerce is now 34% of GameStop's total revenue. So as you can see, they're definitely looking into e-commerce as the future and they're setting themselves up for success. However, the bad news for GameStop is net sales are down overall 3.1%. And a big reason for this is due to COVID-19. And they even mentioned that. So with that piece of news and the recent stock price increase, let's take a look at GameStop's valuation and see if it's even worth it. So GameStop's current valuation is about $2.48 billion and their current stock price is about $35.5 per share. But a more important metric that I like to look at, especially for retailers, is price to sales. And generally with price to sales ratios, the higher the better, the lower the worse. And their price to sales ratio is about 0.45. This is actually kind of in line with other retailers. So if we take a look at Best Buy, they have a price to sales ratio of 0.62. A big reason why it's higher is because they actually make a profit and they have earnings. So that makes sense why Best Buy would have a slightly higher price to sales ratio. And Nordstrom, which is another retailer, has a price to sales ratio of about 0.47. So in my eyes, this price to sales ratio for GameStop compared to Best Buy and Nordstrom is actually very much in line, and it tells me that their valuation is actually not that absurd. Even though their stock price has gone up a lot, it's mainly getting back to the point where investors feel like it's a reasonable valuation. However, the thing to note is that it is reasonable if you expect them to keep on selling, keep on maintaining their price to sales ratio, and potentially eke out a profit in the long term. They could match Best Buy's price to sales ratio if they can actually eke out a profit. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the positives and negatives and see if GameStop still has growth potential ahead of it. So some of the positives are, obviously it's executing well. Same store sales are up over 4%, which means that people are coming back to GameStop and they're finding value in their retail stores. And even more importantly, e-commerce is up over 300%. They are making those sales and they're satisfying customers and customers are coming back to purchase. And the last big positive is e-commerce overall is blowing up. And we can tell that GameStop is very much poised to take advantage of e-commerce now and in the future. Not only are they able to be an e-commerce presence, but they're able to keep the site up. They're able to sell. They're able to even ship customers their products on time. So as you can tell, it's not just about the website, but it's everything related to e-commerce, including logistics, including a great customer experience. And so this is where the positives end. Taking a look at some of the negatives, this is obviously holiday sales. It's very hard to actually glean a lot of insightful long-term information based off of just holiday sales, and it's not representative of the rest of the 9 months of the year. The other big thing to note is this is also the time period when Xbox Series X and PS5 were launched, and they were basically impossible to find anywhere else. Buyers and resellers were scrambling to find any sort of consoles from any site, from Amazon to Target to Best Buy to Walmart and to also GameStop. My big guess is most of the sales from GameStop are mainly the PS5 and the Xbox Series X sales, and it's mainly because people can't buy them where they actually want to buy them, like Amazon or Target. And the crazy thing is, most of these people who are buying these consoles are also reselling them on eBay. So you can clearly see why a reseller would want to buy a console from wherever they can get their hands on. It doesn't matter if it's from Best Buy or GameStop or Walmart, they just want a console to resell it for $800 on eBay. And so my big worry is, yes, they're making a lot of money now, and yes, they're selling a lot of consoles now, but it's really a big question of, can they continue this success with Xbox Series X and the PS5 and the Switch once supply chains are fixed and once average retailers like Target and Walmart and Amazon can get inventory? My big guess is once these retailers can get inventory of these consoles and not compete with GameStop, customers will probably go back and choose Target and Walmart and Amazon rather than going to GameStop. So this leads me to my recommendation. My recommendation here is I don't see much upside and I don't see much growth from GameStop unless you expect PS5 and Xbox Series X to still be in very high demand and very low supply for the foreseeable future. My hypothesis is a lot of people are buying from GameStop because it's the only place they can find these consoles. Once Amazon and Target and Walmart have these consoles in stock reliably, people are just going to buy from those places. And if you are going to buy GameStop, I wouldn't recommend putting a lot of money in because it's going to be very volatile in the next few days and in the next few weeks. A big reason why the stock shot up is because of a short squeeze. So a lot of short sellers were covering their position, which made the stock just continually rise and go higher and higher. And we could potentially expect to see more of that, but we could also see it go down because there isn't as much of a short squeeze. So it's pretty much a gamble in my opinion right now whether it'll go up or down in the next couple of days due to a short squeeze or no short squeeze. However, there are a few positives. Their valuation does seem reasonable if you think that they can maintain their level of revenue and potentially if they can eke out a profit. So I do think that they're not terribly overvalued right now. If you still have GameStop stock and you truly believe in their long-term success, then I don't think it's a bad hold. And the last big question is, will their e-commerce site keep on growing? And my guess is yes, but it won't be on the same scale as 300% year over year, because again, I think it's mainly due to Xbox Series X, PS5 not being available, and due to the pandemic. So in my eyes, I think GameStop is doing very well in the last quarter, but I don't think it's sustainable year over year. I see this past quarter more as an exception rather than the rule for GameStop long term. So for me, I'm sitting on the sidelines for the GameStop stock. I probably won't buy it. I don't see much upside in their stock, and I think it's fairly valued. However, I will be following along and seeing how volatile it'll be due to short squeeze or potentially no short squeeze. And so with that, we wrap up the GameStop stock. Let me know down below in the comments, are you going to buy GameStop? Are you potentially going to sell your GameStop stock? And let me know what you're going to do. And make sure you like and subscribe for more future updates. And with that, make sure you understand a company's product strategy before you do any sort of investment. And most importantly, make sure you make money. Peace.